Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
Break free from the forces holding you back. Get the life you deserve. Eliminate stress, reduce anxiety, decrease depression, and start living your full potential. Thousands have used Dr. Foojan Zane's awareness integration theory, an evidence-based behavioral health breakthrough with incredible life-changing results. Getting rid of past trauma, having fulfilling relationships, increasing earnings, and living their best life. Now, the Foojan app is available to everyone. The app is Dr. Foojan Zane's awareness integration theory in the palm of your hand. Download the Foojan app today.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Inner Voice podcast, a heartfelt chat with my guests and you beautiful listeners and viewers. I'm Dr. Foojan Zane. I'm a psychotherapist, an author, and the originator of the awareness integration theory. And it's so great to be with you all. I know that many of you have asked about the books that are out there related to the awareness integration theory, and here they are. Life Reset, which is a book for all of you. It's a self-help book. You can go through the process of creating the best life that you can, looking at the present moment, becoming aware, kind of cleaning up the past and all the emotional stuff that is left for you and it keeps showing up on every day, cleaning all of that up, cleaning all the closet up and every area of your life, and then pursuing the future from a whole different way of you intending who you need to be and moving forward. The awareness integration therapy, which is really for all of you wonderful psychotherapists, mental health workers, life coaches, people who really want to do this technique with their clients, and it's all written in that book. And we do have certification programs for therapists, mental health clinicians, and life coaches. And we give certification to both and CEUs, continuing education. And for all of you parents, grandparents, teachers who work with children, young to young adult, the intentional parenting, which is written with two of my amazing authors. And we go chapter by chapter, depending on the stages of life, and from infancy to toddler to teenage years to adulthood, and you will have the awareness integration in all aspects of emotional growth, cognitive growth, motor skills growth, and all in all. You can definitely get all of these from my website, foojan.com, Amazon, or anywhere you get your books. Now, today, I am excited to also share with you that you probably hear the ads with the Foojan app. Foojan app also offers you all of the awareness integration path with 31 areas of lifetime. And from there, you get to not only work on yourself, but really look at what skills you need and then, find all of the amazing experts that you could go through the app and listen to them, meet them. And if you need personal coaching or personal therapy, there's some experts there. There are also videos of skill building from, experts from all over the world for you, that not only you become aware of yourself, but also gain the skills. So go to Foojan app to get that. And soon we're going to also have a promotional, just because you are subscribing to this podcast and my podcast, we're going to give you that. So I'm really excited to be with you and to offer you all that I have and can out of 30 years. Today, I am so excited, and I'm positive you'll enjoy whatever you're going to hear, because I really enjoyed conversing with Dr. Glenn and Phyllis Hill. The two of them spent the first 30 years of their marriage living in discontent. Their first sexual experience sent them into years of avoidance and pain. Now, Dr. Glenn was so determined to find out what went wrong, and he went back to school. He became a marriage and family therapist and a clinical sexologist. And licensed MFT and a clinical sexologist. And he really started digging deep into emotional regulation, where he discovered source of all of their disconnect. From there, Dr. Glenn and Phyllis created the connection codes, and that's the name of their new book, Connection Codes. which is a framework to help couples connect emotionally and physically using their 4-minute tool. And guess what? In this podcast, they show you, they actually role play the 4-minute tool for you. And it's spectacular. Now they're authors and they're speakers and have connection coders in over 50 countries for living in peace and in their relationship, and it's beautiful. It was a joy talking to them. They, this talk is personal. They share from their own life, examples from their own life, how they overcome it, what they learned, what are some of the scientific bases around it. So I'm positive you're going to enjoy. And better than that, they're giving you a gift. And the gift, you can go to www.connectioncodes.co//inner voice. And they're giving you 20% discount on some of the material. It's nice. It has a wheel, so it's really cool. And you get to play with it and work with it and really they're giving you the 4-minute code. So I'm just letting you know. All right. So you're going to have that, and I'm positive you're going to enjoy it. Anyway, subscribe to this podcast, my YouTube channel, and connect with me through my website, foojanzain.com. You can also go to foojan.com for the app. You can go to awareness-integration.com to learn all about the theory and the interventions. Go to any of the social medias with Dr. Foojan Zain. I love to hear from you. So contact me, let me know. If you have guests in mind, if you have topics on mind, I just love to connect. I want to know what you want to learn. And I am excited and committed to give you and offer you anything that you want to learn and the questions that you have answers, whether it's with me or all the experts who come on the show. Without further ado, here they are, Dr. Glenn and Phyllis Hill.
Eliminate stress, reduce anxiety, and decrease depression. Dr. Foojan Zain's awareness integration theory has helped thousands like you get incredible life-changing results. The Foojan app gives you her evidence-based treatment in the palm of your hand. Download today.
Well, welcome to our show, Dr. Glenn and Phyllis Hills. It's so nice to have you with me and our audience.
Yes, so exciting. Fun for us as well. We just love it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, this is a lot about the two of you. So not only you've created the connection codes and you have so many people around the world, utilizing your method. But the interesting is this isn't just a theory. This is something that the two of you have really worked through in your marriage. Like, this is experiential. This is experimental. This is the theory and intervention all together because you're here to show, it hasn't been that easy, but we got it and we made it. So please take us through your journey.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting as far as realizing that, our story is probably very similar to others. You marry, we were high school sweethearts, you marry your high school sweetheart, and we had all the things put into place that we thought would give us great success. And we learned very quickly in the first few days, weeks of our marriage that wasn't the case. And there was a lot of conflict. And the conflict so often was about logistical things, just simple things like how the towels were folded or things like that you just thought, oh my goodness, how can there be so much conflict, so much pain over such small things? And, eventually you kind of learn to really avoid what we call now trigger topics, right? We learn to, just as long as we don't talk about that, then we are getting along. And yet, and that's probably a big part of our journey that we learned that. But it felt like over time that really we were growing further apart from each other, and that there were so many things that we just couldn't even talk about. And one of the stories that we tell in our book, we call it the dishwasher story, which was a real turning point in our marriage. And so it was a situation that had occurred many times, unloading of the dishwasher. I came into the kitchen to start dinner thinking the dishwasher was still full, that I needed to unload it before I could start dinner. I I open it. Well, it was already empty. Glenn comes into the kitchen on his way to somewhere else. And I said, oh, babe, thanks for unloading the dishwasher. And then he responded in the way that he normally did. And he said, well, it's not like the only thing I've done today. And that response was very common. And at this point in our marriage, I would just kind of roll my eyes, turn my back, and just mind my own business. But for whatever reason, in that moment.
Yeah, because we had done that pattern probably literally thousands of times, certainly many, many hundreds. And what we were missing was that I live with one of the most productive people on the planet. She happens to live with one of the lesser productive people. I'm fun to have around, but I struggle just getting things done. So what I was experiencing in that moment was that she was making fun of me. Like, oh, it's a miracle. Glenn did something useful for a change. Throw some confetti, call the internet. And so it was so painful for me when she would say that. Well, she didn't know that. She's genuinely just saying those 6 words, thanks for unloading the dishwasher. And so I would respond to her with something from a wounded position of her making fun of me, her demeaning me. And then our cycle would start speeding up. And she would say, I didn't say it was the only thing you did today. And I'm like, well, I don't understand why you have to make such a big deal about it. You act like I'm never do anything worthwhile. And of course, this poor girl's going, wait, what? What is it? We had no idea. We were clueless. Another thing about
something good, and then I got slapped.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And again, that had not happened 3 times. That had happened many, 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 many times. And so as time progressed in our relationship, so the first decade was so brutal for us because we were always at odds. And then we went to tons of marriage conferences, marriage seminars, read marriage books, and they basically said avoid trigger topics. Well, everything was a trigger topic for us. And by then we had children. So we just stopped talking, basically. I mean, we talked about the kids and we talked about, household stuff, but we didn't talk about us at all. And we looked like the healthy marriage. We led all the marriage classes, the marriage seminars at our churches because we didn't fight much. And what people didn't realize is, they don't fight much, but they don't engage much at all. So they're kind of living in peace, but not really. They're just living parallel lives. And we were into our 3rd decade of marriage before we figured out that there was actually a better way.
As I hear your life story, I don't know if you know Heartfelt Hendricks.
Yeah.
And Helen, they kind of share the same thing. Like, they were the gurus and we all took their classes and imagotherapy. And one day I remember coming to, I wasn't in that class, but it was like, okay, we're divorcing. Everybody's shocked that what happened. And it seems like there's some areas that work and we kind of like invest in it. As I hear the two of you, there are areas that are working, we invest in it, we do it great, we move forward. But there are areas that we kind of like put in the closet and we don't handle it. And at one point, it really internally, we get stuck at it at one point and it shows up. And as I hear you, you've done this for such a long time that finally at one point it was like, there's more that I have to handle. And it's where it seems like you started looking at deeper wounds and deeper emotions and really having to work deeper on ourselves, each person, and then bringing it together. So can you share a little bit about that method?
Yeah. Well, and I was just going to mention that I'm the educated one. Phyllis is the smart one. All of the benchmarks in our relationship came from her. And in that moment with the dishwasher thing, she thought to slow down, get curious. And she said, babe, what happens for you whenever I say that? Which she did not have to do, by the way. That was my responsibility. But she cared enough about me and about us that she pursued me. She found out what was happening. And then I was able to tell her the message that I received from her, which is certainly not Phyllis's fault. But I would almost suggest it's not Glenn's fault either. I wasn't trying to feel wounded. I wasn't trying to feel shamed in that moment. That's just what was happening for me. And because she slowed us down, I was able to convey that to her, which was a huge turning point. We were still missing a whole lot of things, but that was a big, big turn for us that led us into the progression in the years that ahead.
Well, that curiosity that I, in that moment had, and then his response to me brought so much compassion to me that then I realized, wow, there are so many things that you react in a way that doesn't make sense to me. And so it's kind of the turn for us was at that moment to stop fighting over the logistics. Just like in the past, I would say, can't you just say you're welcome? Like it would make it so much simpler. And yet that's logistical, right? That was me wanting a logistical change from him. But when I understood the emotion under it, then it brought out the compassion in me. And then I was able to go, okay, wow, I wanted to know more. I wanted to understand more about that. And, in all of that, in our story, obviously we've been married 41 years. So there's a lot of story behind all of that. But in Glenn's research in the many years that he worked on all of this, it was kind of understanding that, wow, so often couples think that it's all about the logistics. We fight about the logistics. If you could just pick up your shoes, then I wouldn't yell at you. So just pick up your shoes. I wouldn't get so angry if you would just pick up your shoes. And so we get stuck right there instead of finding out what's happening to the individual. And that led Glenn to do tons of research about what causes couples to disconnect. And that road led him to get his master's in marriage and family therapy, and then his doctorate in sexology. And through just working with couples and having the time to do that and all the schooling, the research of, we think that we're disconnecting over logistics instead of realizing we're missing each other over the emotion, and that we don't understand how much emotion affects people. And it's a disconnector or a connector. And not just in marriage, but in friendship, in business, in communities. It's the emotion behind something that causes all the damage, that causes all the disconnection, which also can cause the connection.
Yeah, which made no sense to me, because 24 hours before our wedding, we were excited about happily ever after. And 48 hours after our wedding, we were like, oh crap, what did we just do? And we just signed a 70-year contract, we figured. I was 20, she was 19. So we're like, oh my gosh. And that just didn't make sense to me. And it continued to not make sense to me for many years. And so I was able, Phyllis had me quit working when a little over 20 years into our marriage. And she said, you got to go back to school and figure some of this stuff out. And she built a business, which was amazing. So my first quest was to figure out what causes people to disconnect. It just didn't make sense to me. There's not a parent on the planet that I've ever met that hopes to live disconnected from their children. They have this little baby and they're just like, oh my gosh, they're so cute. And then 10, 15 years later, they're completely disconnected. They didn't plan that. They did not do that on purpose. And as we so often criticize them, like, well, the kids are bad or the parents are bad or something. No, they just missed some stuff. So my initial quest was to figure out what happened for this couple that they disconnected so badly, so quickly. And when we finally discovered this scientifically, what causes humans to disconnect, I was excited about that part of it. Phyllis, again, being the smart one, said, well, wait, what causes people to connect? That's what matters. That's what's more important than what causes, because we can walk around identifying saying, well, you're doomed and you're doomed and you're doomed. So it's kind of interesting, but it doesn't really help people. And she said, well, what if we turn it in reverse? Is that what causes people to connect? And she was right. And that's what we now call the connection codes, because we're actually coded for this. It's hardwired inside of us. And that was the thrill, is to realize that, oh my gosh, we scientifically now know how to help people connect. And that's the power of it. And just so you know, Dr. Foojan, we're so psyched about this. We're so hyped about it because we're living it. We remember the pain. We remember the years and years, literally a couple of decades of disconnect. And now to get to live this, we're just mesmerized that this is even possible, because we're the same two people, but now we actually have the tools. We know what to do. We did not need better intentions. We did not need more effort. And that's what most relational stuff focuses on. Well, you have to have a better intention. You have to try harder. No, we just didn't have the right tools, and now we do. And we're blown away that this is even possible, and very, very simple. Actually, that's what's even more stunning. This is so implementable.
Beautiful. Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of personal ways that people can get disconnected, and some of it has nothing to do with the other person, because some things can get triggered by the other person, and you could get disconnected from them because you don't like something, or it triggers you that reminds you of something else. I've even noticed people just, in the best of scenario, people still get disconnected because sometimes novelty shows up, or something takes them to a whole different level, which so suddenly they put it as a priority. And sometimes we take each other for granted when everything is kind of like flat and the novelty isn't there. So you could see, I've seen both myself, and I've seen it with my clients in 30 years, that at times is a trigger of a negative thing you're trying to avoid or hide or protect. And at times it's the opposite. It's almost like all is there, and then it's just like, okay, it's always going to be there, and kind of like your eyes and your attention moves to something else, something shiny, and just takes you. It could be like your career, or it could be something, I'm not talking necessarily infidelity, I'm talking like something else gets you excited about, and you move on, and then suddenly like, oh, what happened? Like, there was a mate there sometime, and what happened to that mate? Or, oh, my child is about 5 years older. Where have I been? Because my attention has gone away. Can you share a little bit about, of course, first a little bit generality about what are some of the disconnection, and then go into your methodology of how do we connect? How do we keep connection? If we've left the connection, how do we return to the connection?
Well, I think even with what you just mentioned is that we often don't know just some of the basics, like how to stay in authenticity with relationships. And so we do get distracted, and we don't know how to even identify pain within our relationship, within our, family unit. And so it is easy to get distracted. It's like, well, there's so much pain here, but over here is that shiny thing, as you mentioned, and so, yes, it could be a career, it could be a hobby, it could be even a neighbor. Like can be things that are like, ooh, that is actually less painful. And so, part of what we teach is how to identify the pain, how to tune into ourselves. Right. For many of us, we have not been taught that early in life to tune in. It's almost like the opposite. So many of us have been taught to, kind of like, you're okay, move on. And so we don't know how to slow down and to really go, okay, what is happening with me, and how to deal with the pain. We don't know how to communicate in a healthy way. I felt pain when you said that, or I felt really hurt that you forgot to bring home milk. Like, we don't know how to say it in a way that is a healthy way. And so we often attack each other, or we are one of those people who bottle it up for a day, a week, a month, and then we explode. And so then we cause all this damage in our relationships because we just don't know how to stay in authenticity and just communicate that. Yeah,
because we're hardwired at birth to be authentic. All babies are authentic all the time. Somewhere along the way, we get knocked off course. So and we're skipping a bit to fast forward just for time's sake, but as we started doing this research, we saw that humans connect through emotions, specifically core emotions. And there are 5 neural regions in every human's brain on the planet that fire emotions in what we call the limbic system. When the limbic system is flooded, it blocks the cortexes from working effectively and maybe at all. You've heard somebody say, I was so upset I couldn't think straight. That is scientifically accurate. That's exactly what happens. So if I feel wounded by Phyllis, if she said something, did something, and I'm not even blaming her that I felt hurt. What we do know is that I felt hurt. I did. I don't know if it's her fault. How in the world do you figure that out? She may have said something like, thanks for unloading the dishwasher. Well, we're not going to judge her for that and condemn her and go, oh, Phyllis, how dare you say thanks for unloading the dishwasher? Well, that doesn't make any sense. So, but I did feel wounded. I did feel pain. I did feel hurt in it. So what we have to help people do is to learn to process the emotions in the moment, which is, again, what we're hardwired to do. Every 12-month baby on the planet processes emotion instantly. That's what we're designed to do. Somewhere along the way, we get knocked off track. We never get recoded, but we get reprogrammed. So then we're not authentic anymore. Phyllis can dance with the authentic Glenn. Glenn can dance with the authentic Phyllis if I know what's happening for her at the core. So our mission was to figure out, how do we help people process these core emotions so that the limbic system is cleared out, so that the cortex is engaged, they become smarter versions of themselves. Literally, they're able to think clearly, and then they're able to connect. So with the 5 neural regions, we divide, the 5 neural regions are anger, fear, disgust, pleasure, and pain. And we divide pain up. The emotional pains are hurt, sad, and lonely because they look so different on a brain scan. And then disgust, we divide into guilt and shame because they present so differently affectively. So the 8 core emotions are the common human language. It's cross-cultural, it's cross-language. That's what everybody experiences. And part of the beauty of it is, because it's a common language, whenever I say to Phyllis, I feel overwhelmed, she doesn't really know what that means. I mean, she knows what the word means, but she doesn't know what's happening for me. If I say to her, I feel fear, what the research showed was that it tickles the fear region of her brain. It becomes a shared human experience, and we bond through that. Plus, she knows what I'm talking about. Every human knows what fear is. So if I say, oh, I feel stressed, I feel anxious, I feel overwhelmed, those are not wrong things to say, but it does not cue her into me the same as if I say, I feel pain, I feel fear, I feel shame. In that. And now we can bond and we can connect, we can dance, and we process through this. And this is what blows my mind, Dr. Foojan, is we do that in less than 30 seconds. I can't believe this is even possible. If you'd said that to me 30 years ago, I'd have been like, stop making fun of me. Because we would have 3-day conflict, 3-week disconnects. Yeah. And now to realize that literally, we go for many, many weeks without having a tense moment that lasts more than 30 seconds. I don't even have words for it. I cannot believe that's even possible. And yet we're living it and seeing thousands of people around the world experience the same thing.
We also talk about identity in your book. You have a chapter about how to, look at our identity, how it's formed, and how we can create a, conscious identity in a sense, with looking at our emotions and being authentic first with ourselves, with our emotion, and then expressing it authentically. Can you share what it is that you call identity? Because identity is fluid in a sense, but there's something that we mean when we say identity. Can you please share?
Yeah, we call that the number one fundamental, foundational, most pressing human need, just the sense of self. I think that's what Brene Brown referenced it as just the idea of how am I experiencing myself right now? And, if we met in person and you wouldn't shake my hand, you kind of look away from me. Well, I'm very quickly going to lose identity, just the sense that she doesn't value me. She doesn't see me. She doesn't think I'm even worth acknowledging. And we're coded, I'm supposed to move away from someone like that. Well, if I'm stuck with you, if I'm stuck in this room, this meeting, whatever, that just becomes a pain experience for me, that I'm like, wow, she just doesn't like me for whatever reason. And maybe you had an unkind uncle whose name was Glenn. And so when you just saying the word, literally the name Glenn, you're like, I don't want to hang out with that person. He reminds me of my uncle. So I would lose identity. I would lose that sense that I have value to you in the moment. And again, it doesn't mean I have to be mean to you. I'm just eventually going to move away from you, because I'm like, every time I'm with her, I feel unseen. I feel unvalued. I feel like I don't matter to her. So I'm just going to go hang out with that other person over there, where I receive identity, where I do feel seen, I do feel valued, I do feel that I matter to them.
It kind of goes with do I exist to you? Do I have value to you? Right. And when we get the answer no, that is when you realize I'm losing so much identity here. And, hopefully that's not happening in your marriage if you're married, but often the other person doesn't even realize that you're losing identity. Without you, it's like it starts with you. You've got to realize, oh man, every time I'm with my mom, she criticizes me and I feel I lose identity. Well, it really helps when you can tune into that, because then you can prepare yourself. It's almost like you can go, okay, I'm going to go spend time with my mom because I want to, but I know what's coming. And it's like even just being aware of that changes the whole experience. When you are in a marriage, in a partnership, there is such a need for you to be able to say, I lose identity when you criticize me in front of our friends. It's very important for your partner to understand that is happening for you and that they understand the value of identity. Because there's times, a partner can so easily respond by going, oh, I was just kidding. And it was for you to be able to go, I feel so much pain. I feel pain. I feel shame when you tease me in front of my friends and I lose identity. And for them to understand, man, that is not sustainable in a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, and it may even be something, I mean, just like Phyllis saying, thanks for loaning the dishwasher, that's not an evil thing. There's no way you can criticize Phyllis and say, oh, shame on you for saying that.
Right.
And we learned just a few years ago in our relationship, when Phyllis says, thanks for doing anything for me, and we call it the three phrases, we call it the, ooh, what's happening, and I missed it. And I said to Phyllis, I said, when you say thanks for helping me, I lose identity. I feel a little bit less than like I'm just a minimum wage employee, like I'm not valuable to you. And she said, oh, what's happening with that? What am I missing? And ultimately we're getting to the point of meeting needs. And she said, so babe, what do you need? And I said, would you be willing to say thanks for partnering with me? And she gently grinned at me and she said, yeah, I could say that. And she didn't have to. She's not wrong to say thanks for helping me. But since that time, which that was probably 5 years ago, most of the time she'll remember and she'll go, babe, thanks for partnering with me. She'll even be a smart aleck. I'll hand her a pen and she'll be like, thanks for partnering with me and giving me that pen. Like, yeah, whatever. But it's a connector. I mean, literally, I say it and she ends up laughing and we bond through that. She does not have to say thanks for partnering with me, but I'm so important to her that she's like, yeah, if it has value to my partner, to Glenn, yeah, I can say that. And it just washes over me when she says that. Because I feel identity, I feel so seen by her that, hey, I'm a partner here, people. I'm not just a minimum wage employee. I'm not expendable. I'm not some random dude showing up. I'm a partner. And it really does. It's amazing to me. I feel so valued in that, and I receive identity and it washes over me. But again, none of that is Phyllis's fault or her responsibility at all. She's just willing to do it because she really, really likes me.
I remember when you guys saying, I used to, at every turn, if my husband did something, I just said, thank you. And he kept saying, well, and then at the beginning, he was like, you don't have to say thank you. Why do you keep saying thank you? And it was like, I want to appreciate every single aspect of it. Can you just receive it instead of diffusing it? And it's like, it's hard for me because I think it's just redundant. I'm like, but my gratitude is not redundant. My gratitude, every time I say it, it makes me appreciate you. This isn't just for you. It's every time it comes out of my mouth, I go into gratitude and it fills me up with gratitude. And I hope you gain it and, you receive it, but this isn't just for you. This is really for me to be the source of gratitude. And for me, it's easier instead of me going with this, intervention of laying down on bed and saying 5 things that I was grateful today. I'm just going to be grateful all day because I keep saying it, seeing it, saying it, feeling it. So it took about maybe a couple of months. And now it's just, I say, thank you. And it's like, you're welcome. And it's like, it's like every minute that just and then he started like, if, things were happening, something that I didn't even realize, and he was enjoying it, and he would just turn around and say, thank you. So we started that piece of all day, just really, appreciating each other, which was a little bit awkward at the beginning. So something that you guys said, which was interesting, we said, sometimes we get caught in logistics. And I think I would like to say, sometimes we get caught into empty logistics. Because I think that whatever, like Phyllis, you were saying, when we feel it, when we experience it, There's still a logistics of communicating and how to communicate it effectively. But you're so right that when we just only shift the words in order to logistically make something look right, but it isn't right inside, it doesn't come with the whole thing, the emotions inside, it just doesn't land. It just feels like, it's a robotic thing that you're just doing versus really like experiencing it and sharing it. So everyone, the connection code, I want you guys to be able to get this by Dr. Glenn and Phyllis Hills. Another conversation that you guys had in your book, it says the connection codes pre-existed us. We did not invent them. We simply swept them into a pile and labeled them. And they're a blueprint of how humans connect in relationship, as well as set of tools for facilitating the process. But out of all your book, I really, really love this sentence. You said, if you love deeply, you hurt deeply. And if you don't, it's much worse. And I totally agree. And I totally agree with that sentence. So it's your methodology is bringing the two of you closer to each other, but more than I hear that, it brings you closer to yourself and then to each other.
Yeah. And that's, part of what we realized, and I think with Glenn having a private practice here in Tennessee, is that he realized just in the value of creating tools that can actually make a huge difference in relationships. And that, a lot of people cannot afford therapy or cannot go and sit down with someone in therapy to talk through all of the differences in their relationship. And so, this made such a huge difference for us. And then it's like, okay, how can we create it with tools that everyone can get, can use, can pass on? And one of the tools that we have is called the core emotion wheel. And part of it is a way for you yourself to tune in. What is happening with me? Because our brain is firing emotions all day long. Most of us don't know how to tune in. And so, we in a way weaponize emotions with each other or with ourselves. We try to hold it together and then we blow up because we're not processing constantly our emotions. So the tool that we have, which is, it's in the book, it's black and white in the book. So this one is an emoji one. That's a lot of fun.
Can you bring it up a bit?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. And so this is just what we call the core emotion wheel with emojis. And it is the 8 core emotions. And what we do is an exercise. It's just a 4-minute exercise, so 2 minutes each, where we can express daily our emotions. Now, this is kind of a tool that is a beginner. This is the beginner, right? Like, as in, this is a way for you to tune into yourself, for you to share with your partner what's happening with you, with your friends. We have teachers that use it in their classrooms. So it can be used in multiple ways to kind of slow down and go, okay, what is happening with me? And once you learn to do that with this kind of exercise, daily exercise, then you can actually just start using this language all the time. Just like what you were sharing, when you say to your partner, thank you for doing this, you actually can change the wording to, oh, I feel so much joy doing this with you, or I feel so much joy that you just did this. And it tickles the joy region of his brain, which is amazing, because the joy region, then you're both firing in the joy region together. And it's like, you're bonding. Really, it's very bonding, and you're sharing in a really deep way. And we would love to do this exercise right now for your audience so they can see how it plays out in real time.
Please.
And I just want to say, the reason we designed this is because everybody wants to be connected. That's the human condition. They just don't know how. And so these emotions that remain unprocessed end up being a barrier to them. And a lot of people view emotions as bad and they're damaging, but that's unprocessed emotion. And so we wanted to help people figure out, and again, we're coded this way from birth. We know how to do it when we're born, and then we get knocked off course and we forget. So this tool is designed just to be experiential so that they get trained, retrained technically, because they did it well as babies, to retrain them to be able to do it in real time. So, and it takes 2 minutes per person. So it's incredibly fast and effective, because people don't have time every day to do a 45-minute exercise. Like, I don't have that much time in my day. Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. Great.
Okay. Let's see. I think I felt hurt yesterday when you said that you thought that I was mad at you, but you weren't really tuning in to what was happening with me. I think that I felt sad, just kind of in that interaction, because I kind of felt missed by you, but then it led me to guilt because I didn't tell you what was happening with me. That was not fair to you. Let's see, shame. I think I felt shame early this morning when I wasn't prepared for a meeting and I didn't have my notes written out, and I didn't realize it till the meeting started. Felt some shame in that. Fear. I think I feel fear with all the trips and speaking engagements we have coming up, that I've got to get all my ducks in a row and all the material sent out ahead of time. Feel fear that I'm not going to get that done. Lonely. Oh, I do feel lonely in the logistics of our travel, because I'm always the one handling all those things and you're not. And so I feel alone in that experience. Let's see. Did I mention guilt already? Oh, good. And I mentioned shame already. So then anger. Ooh, that's always a little bit harder for me. I think earlier we actually were doing a podcast and we were talking about my childhood. And I do feel anger when I think about how much my parents, my mom had a silent voice, like she did not have a voice. And so I think a lot of that was passed on to me. I feel anger in that. And just, it took me so long to wake up to that and get my voice, feel anger for that. Joy, tons of joy. The sun is shining and the fall weather is here. Love that. So much joy with that. And then just a lot of joy for the trips that are coming up. I love traveling with you. So a lot of joy.
Well, cool. So for me, a lot of loneliness being at the conference. The past couple of days, we went to different classes on purpose. And so I was always sitting alone, and of course, usually didn't know anybody going into it. So a lot of lonely in that. I feel so sad for the many, many years where we missed each other. We just didn't have a clue. We had great intentions. We wanted to connect, and we didn't have any idea, had no tools to do that. So much hurt with you over the years in so many different ways. And we wounded each other so much and traumatized each other from so many ridiculous hurts. Tons and tons of joy getting to live life with you now. I'm blown away. I never thought we'd get to live this. And the fact that we get to work together is just spectacular. Travel together, everything together, it blows my mind. A lot of anger. I'm really, really driven to get this message out. People should not have to live like we lived for a couple of decades. It's just life is too precious. Life is too important. And we have to reach 8 billion people, the whole population on the planet, with this message. It's just so important. Tons of shame over how much I missed. I can't believe it. I'm a very, very smart person, and I was dumb as a brick so many times because I was always flooded with you. I wanted to be with you, and I couldn't stand being with you. I didn't know how to connect with you. And there was so much shame in the moment and so much shame now looking back, like how could I have been that dense? How could I have missed that badly? Lots of guilt in that. Just, I wounded you so many times. I mean, not once, not twice, not 100 times, literally thousands of times, which still comes into play for us today. Now we just know what to do with it. And then always fear for me just presenting to a new audience that I want to make sure we're conveying well. I feel fear that we may have misconveyed, people may have missed some things in our message, because our dream is just to help people to know how to connect, because that's the essence of life, is just being in close community with the people that are valuable to us.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you.
I love it. And that's the core emotion wheel. It takes 2 minutes per person. And we do this every day so that we're retraining ourselves to be able to do it this afternoon, this evening, in the moment when it happens.
It's beautiful. There's such a powerful authenticity and vulnerability and to allow like a solidness, and then yet, allowing openness with it. So it has all of it together. So thank you so much for sharing all of that with me and for everyone who's hearing or listening to us. Everyone, you've got to get this book. It is The Connection Code by Dr. Glenn and Phyllis Hill. In 1 minute, if there's anything that we haven't touched upon and you really want people to know, what would that be?
Well, I don't know that this should be in my minute, but I did want to say that we want to give your listeners a free copy of this core emotion wheel so that they can instantly download it, print it off, and use it. And it'll come with directions and a video that will show them how it's done. And if they just go to connectioncodes.co/inner voice, they will get that free download. And any of the other materials that we have will be then available to them. And we actually have master classes too. We've gone into the studio. It goes well with the book. And so if your listeners want to just go, oh, I don't want to do a book, but I would watch a master class, if they will use the code INNER, it'll give them 20% off of any of the master classes that we have. And it's such a great way to start this journey, because for many people, they just don't know where to start. And that's what we wanted to make it simple. We wanted to make it implementable to everybody. Kids love this stuff. Like you think, oh, you have to be a certain age to understand emotions. That's not true. I mean, you do this core emotion wheel with your child, and they are usually better at it than we adults are.
Yeah. And the one thing I would say is just, I plead with people, just check this out. The connection codes are based on the human condition. It's not a personality profile, a theory. This is already true for you. It just got blocked along the way. And so we're just trying to help people get back to their authentic self, because that's how humans connect deeply, is in authenticity. And it's already inside of you. You just need to get it reactivated. And the power of it is just mind-blowing.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with
Love
us.
it. So good. So
Absolutely.
much joy.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you for the gift for all of us. That's a beautiful gift that you're offering. And for all of you who are out there, create an amazing life for yourself and everyone around you. And until next week, bye-bye.
Eliminate stress, reduce anxiety, and decrease depression. Dr. Foojan Zane's awareness integration theory has helped thousands like you get incredible life-changing results. The Foojan app gives you her evidence-based treatment in the palm of your hand. Download today.